So if you can hear the outside world, that is because I've decided to leave the window open. And I've also decided to leave my mirror in the way. Let's move that. So I don't know about you guys, but I just search story time into the YouTube search bar now whenever I'm bored. It's becoming a little bit of a hobby of mine to just search for story time videos, and quite a few of you guys were just like, do a story time on this, do a story time on that, do a story time on this, do a story time on that. And then before I realised it, I was in some kind of remix world, and then it was just like, do a story time on this, do a story time on that, do a story time on this, do a story time on that. So many story time ideas and so many stories, such an eventful life, so many things that I could make videos about and call them story times. And then I figured, why not start with something a little bit light-hearted, you know, and go way back to when I was quite a little bit younger than I am now. When I'm 64. So this story time is going to be 2 story times in one, because let's just jump in at the deep end. I'm going to tell you 2 school themed story times. I was technically alright with my GCSEs. I wasn't a bad student, I wasn't an amazing student, but I would say I was a decent student, decent enough for my parents to have been proud of me. However, maths is not my strong point at all. I feel like I have a very creative mind and I get lost with numbers a lot of the time. My calculator on my phone is my best friend, and I pretty much just round numbers up constantly, and that's the only time I find myself doing maths. So when I'm shopping pretty much and doing my grocery shopping and things like that, that's when I tend to use numbers, or when I'm trying to calculate like a length of time between this day and another day. So I don't really find myself being too disheartened by how crap I am at maths. I was terrible in primary school, it took me ages to learn my times tables. I was just really abysmal at maths, but in high school I seemed to get a little bit better, and I was alright for a little bit. And I remember in year 9 I kind of flunked a little bit. I lost my concentration a little bit. I wasn't really paying as much attention as usual. I was always kind of drawing or looking out the window or just distracted by things, and I wasn't interested enough in maths to actually really be taking any interest. I also have ADHD, so I find it very hard to focus. Sometimes I focus better doing 2 things at once, but sometimes I can't really concentrate at all. It's hard, but I found that with topics I was more passionate about, I was more on focus. Maths was just not a strong point for me. Around year 9, I kind of just was not really making it much effort anymore, so I got moved to the foundation class. So for those of you in England or not in England, okay, I'm just going to explain how it was at my school. So you had your higher whatever, and then you had intermediate, which was kind of like middle level, and then you had foundation. So foundation, let's say easy, then intermediate, medium, and then higher would be hard. So let's say if you was in the higher spiral of the way they score things, if you were in the higher tier you could get like an A to a C. If you were in the middle tier you could get anything from like an A to a D. Well, if you're in the middle tier you could get anything from like an A to an E, but obviously you would fail if you got below a C. And then in foundation it would kind of be a bit more lenient, but at the same time it's kind of like you couldn't get an A, basically. It was just unachievable on the foundation paper. When I was stuck in the foundation class in year 9, and then it kind of dawned on me that I would be doing the foundation paper, I got a little bit lazy and I was just kind of like, right, okay. Because the foundation level was so much more easier, I kind of got a little bit cocky and I got a bit lazy, and I wasn't really paying much attention anyway. So because I wasn't really exercising the mathematical side of my brain at all, or even trying to kind of make some effort to learn something, I was kind of just in this little world where this is easy enough. I could probably scrape a D or C and I could get away with it on this foundation paper. So I wasn't arsed, I'd been moved down a set. So the day came when I was expecting to get my foundation paper for my GCSEs, and they lined us all up outside, and I remember standing there and I remember kind of thinking to myself, right, okay, I hate maths, this is going to probably be the worst 2 hours of my life, but at least I'm getting a free bottle of water, and at least I've brought some nice pens with me, because pens were the highlight of my life back then. So we were all there in our lines and we all went in. I remember we were sat in rows in the sports hall, and I would look around and I would see the rest of my class, like, you know, the foundation kind of level, and then the set below me, and then the set below me, or the set above me, or whoever was doing the foundation paper was in like a line, then whoever was doing intermediate was kind of in the middle of the sports hall, whoever was doing higher was at the other end. So basically all of the cocky bastards that were really smart, aka not me, they were all way over there. Not jealous, by the way, not jealous at all. So I sat down, I had my water, and then when they put the paper down that had my name on it, guess what paper I got? It did not say foundation level, it said intermediate level. And in that moment, I just grabbed my drink and I necked it. Like I just necked half of the water and put it down, and I put my hand up, and I remember it was like the longest 15 to 20 minutes of my life just waiting for the teacher to come to me. And she came to me and I said, I've got the wrong paper, I've been doing foundation level for the past 2 years, they moved me down from intermediate like in year 9, blah 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 blah, this is going to be too hard for me. And then the teacher turned around and said I had the right paper, that this was the right paper assigned to me by whoever the higher school authority was, whoever was giving us the papers in the first place, GCSE people. They don't even call it GCSEs anymore. That's how old I am. I'm 24 now, and I was about 15 back then. And when she turned around and walked away, I just remember thinking, she's walking away with all of my future job opportunities, because there's no way in hell I'm gonna pass this. So I started it, and it ended miserably. I ended up getting a E. So don't feel bad about your grades too much, because I got a lot of B's, I got a lot of C's. I was happy, but my lowest grade was an E in maths, so never feel too bad about yourself. I've never retaken my maths. People have said, you know, why don't you retake your maths? And school authorities have been like, you know, you should take your maths again, why not? And all of these things, but my CV seems decent enough, even though I just tend to kind of hope that people aren't looking at the maths section. But I've had jobs, and not having that GCSE hasn't really ruined my life or anything, to be extreme. But there's a little story on how I ended up doing an intermediate paper out of nowhere. There you go. And I was telling this story to my friend Joe earlier, and we watch a lot of Storytime videos whenever we're hanging out, and he turned around and said I should tell that story because he thought it was funny that I got stuck with an intermediate paper instead of my foundation paper. So yeah. And then the other little school story I'm going to tell you guys, just a little side tangent, just throwing a little story in there. There was the time I got high in science. So I didn't just whack out a joint and just start smoking a spliff or doing a line of the devil's snow. So it was nothing like that. Basically, I remember quite clearly that Mr. Taylor was not my science teacher that day. He wasn't supposed to be my science teacher that day, but he ended up being my science teacher that day. Now, I remember Mr. Donaldson was usually my science teacher, just throwing the real names out there, not giving a fuck. And my best friend, Emma, and I would just always piss about in science. Science was a subject where I wasn't absolutely amazing at it, but I was so interested in it that I never like got sidetracked. But it was quite lax, that class that day, because Mr. Donaldson wasn't there. Now, Mr. Donaldson, he wouldn't take no shit, but Mr. Donaldson was not there that day. He was someone you would not mess with, but he was also very interesting. He would kind of captivate you sometimes with science. Mr. Taylor was teaching us that day, and me and Emma were just getting a bit sidetracked, and this teacher would always go out for about 10 minutes. No other teacher would ever really vanish, like ever, I noticed, but he would disappear. It later came out when I was in college that Mr. Taylor got found, and you can look for this link. Just type into Google Mr. Taylor Wigan. You'll find out what high school I went to, which is fun for you guys, but it should come up. Mr. Taylor, school teacher, Wigan. He got caught with a variety of cannabis plants. Now, I am not condoning marijuana. Now, I'm not slagging marijuana off, and I'm not having an opinion on what he did at all, but now I'm starting to think that when he did disappear for 10 to 15 minutes, he was definitely smoking a joint. That's definitely where he went. That definitely explains why his eyes were always red, because when he was getting stressed out of his head with like people being naughty in the class, he was probably just thinking to himself, God, I just need a joint. He was probably just thinking, I need to smoke something. I am leaving these absolute crazy bastards, and I'm just gonna nip out and smoke a little one pop to myself. That's what he was thinking. A one pop being a little small zoot. I'm not going to tell you how I know that. While Mr. Taylor was outside, probably smoking a little joint, me and Emma thought we would have a little bit of fun, and Emma dared me to smell some of the concoctions. Now, we had all these Bunsen burners, and we were doing that class where he would kind of show us if you mix this chemical with another chemical, and then this other chemical with another chemical, that it would either turn blue or green, or the flame would change colour, or there would be smoke. All I know was that was the basis of the experiment. He'd showed us a few of these experiments and kind of left us, which was a bit naughty, and buggered off outside for a little bit. This does not paint my school to be a very good school, does it? Mixing up a GCSE exam paper and the teacher going outside to smoke a joint. So basically, what she ended up doing was daring me to smell some of the smoky stuff that was coming out of the Bunsen burner. Now, I smelled a little bit of it when she'd heated it up in this little glass container. We just smelled a little bit. almost kind of, I remember a bit chemically, but not really like anything. It didn't do anything, we just laughed and we were just joking with each other and we were just like, I dare you to do this, and then not really doing it, and I dare you to do that, and not really doing it. But you know when you're just kind of at that age where you're like, ooh, look what I'm doing, but really you're not doing that much. We kind of just doing a little bit of that and having a laugh. And then she turned around and was like, I dare you to smell some of this. And then she just got it, and I remember she pretty much just like moved it towards my face, and it was like the flamey kind of one. The flamey kind of one? I remember there was like smoke coming off it. Anyway, this is very unsafe. Do not try this at home. Do not repeat this in school. I was an idiot. Me and Emma were both an idiot. Not really. Emma, if you're watching this video, I love you to bits. FYI. That reminds me, I should probably give Emma a phone call. Long story short, even though this is still kind of a longish story, I ended up sniffing some of this stuff that I should not have sniffed, and it started to make me feel a bit dizzy, and I remember standing up and touching my desk and just kind of being like, okay. And then I remember I had the little stool behind me with a plastic top, just those rickety cheap ass science chairs, and it was just like, oh, I didn't feel very good, but I just kind of thought, it's probably all in my head. I'm probably just kind of being a little bit, you know, a bit of a hypochondriac, shall we say, because I could get a little bit like that. I was the type of person to avoid injections I should have got. I still have not had my TB injection, and they won't give it to me now. They're not handing them out anymore, so please don't give me tuberculosis. And I don't even think I said that right, but please, I just do not want TB. I'm scared of TB now. I'm very scared of TB because I decided to get on a plane and go to America and live there when I should have been getting my TB injection. Not a smart move. Moving on. So I tried to leave the science room, and it was a room, and then it led to another room which had the doors in front of it, because it was pretty much kind of like a bungalow-y building, just like a one-floor building with like science class area outside bit. And I just remember kind of walking out and feeling really dizzy, and then I just collapsed. Didn't collapse in a really dramatic like, oh no, something bad's gonna happen. I just ended up like passing out for like 10 seconds or something ridiculous. I didn't know I'd passed out until somebody had told me I'd passed out, obviously, and when I came around I just laughed. And it just kind of felt like I blinked, basically, and then I kind of was just laughing to myself. And that could have gone wrong in so many ways, because there are so many dangerous chemicals. I would not advise it. It didn't get me high. I wasn't like giggling or laughing. I didn't come around laughing because I was feeling like the effects of it. I just came around laughing because I seemed to be amused by my stupid actions. Thus, this resulting in a couple of years later, when I was in college, I decided to just make my own little song inspired by this event. But it's basically me singing because I got high about the science chemicals with Emma, but when I found out that Mr. Taylor was harbouring a few cannabis plants in his house. I was inspired by that, it amused me, I laughed, might have even been high when I recorded it, not too sure.
I used to go to Wesley High, but then Mr. Taylor got high. I used to sniff shit in science to get high. And we used to think it was funny, and I don't know why.
So yeah, there's that, and yeah, it amused me at the time. There's 2 ridiculous story time videos. Bravo, Jess, sniffing science chemicals and being crap at maths. So if you can take anything away from this video today, if you're young and you're studying maths, then pay attention. You'll need that maths one day. Be good at maths, have a good job, or fail at maths and go and get an art degree. Moving along. Bye! Oh, and also let me know if you enjoyed this storytime video, and I'll make more of them or suggest topics down below. Bye!